Hey guys, welcome back. Today we're going to be talking about Carrie by Stephen King. Now, Carrie is Stephen King's debut novel. I'm assuming I don't have to explain who Stephen King is for you. He's the master of horror, everyone knows Stephen King. But I don't know how many people have read this. I know it's known as a classic, but I usually hear people talk more about The Shining and Misery and that sort of thing. I don't think Carrie get much love, so I decided to pick it up on a whim, and I'm really glad I did because this book was fantastic. So with that said, let's get started. So Carrie follows the story of a 16-year-old girl known as Carrie White. She's raised by a single mother who's a religious extremist, and she thinks anything to do with sex is a sin. She thinks Carrie is a devil child because she conceived her from having sex, obviously. And she basically teaches her nothing about sex, nothing about babies, anything like that. And Carrie doesn't get a period until she's 16, and she actually gets it in class, and this is where like the novel kind of starts. And because she doesn't know what's going on, she's convinced she's going to bleed to death, she's covered in blood, she's screaming. And like lockers and stuff like that start shaking, and things start going flying across the room, and nobody's really sure what's going on, but this is when you find out Carrie's got telekinesis powers. Now, before I read this, I didn't think telekinesis was like the most exciting superpower. I still don't think it's the most exciting superpower, but luckily that doesn't bring this book down at all. Carrie is such an interesting character. Even though telekinesis I think is pretty boring myself, I think the plot was fantastic, the way it was used was really interesting. And I'm glad to say, like, even though I think telekinesis is boring, this book was so gripping I couldn't put it down. So it is said that Carrie does have telekinesis powers her whole life, but she can't really control them. So she's used as a child, and this is when her mum decided that she's a devil spawn and she's evil, because she was conceived during sex, so therefore sex is evil. She gave birth to Carrie, who's now apparently almost like Satan, and because she's got telekinesis powers, this basically confirms for her that her daughter is evil. Now obviously Carrie's not evil. She's just an ordinary girl, and she's got telekinesis powers. So she gets bullied off her mum, she gets bullied off people at school, but she's still a nice person. She's not, like, horrible, she's not, like, angry towards people. She just wants to get on with her life and wants to be happy, and she doesn't really hold any resentment towards anyone. But when she gets really angry, that's when her powers start, like, flaring up. So, like, when people bully her, this is sort of the time when her powers start coming into effect. So one thing that I think is a bit of a shame though is the start of this book is quite slow. It took me about a third of the way to get through to actually get into the plot and get like invested in it. And I guess it was probably an intentional thing because it's a bit of a slow build up to the big payoff, but I wasn't that hooked from the start. Once I got past the first third, it was really gripping. It's not that big of a deal because the book is only 200 and something pages, so it is quite short. But just be warned that if you are reading this for the first time, the start might be a bit slow, but I can assure you that it's absolutely worth it. After the first third, the plot gets really interesting. The characters start to get really interesting, and because you get like glimpses into what happens later, that's really interesting as well. Now, Carrie is without a doubt the most interesting character in this whole novel, because obviously the book is about her. Her mother was quite interesting, but I felt like a lot of the side cast wasn't that interesting, which I thought was a shame. Because I felt the way Carrie was written was so, like, as the character, I mean, not the book, was like so fantastic and gripping. And her mum was really interesting as well, but it felt like the side cast were just so forgettable. But that's just like a minor knockback, which is a bit of a shame to say about, because I did really enjoy pretty much everything else about this book. One thing I absolutely love is that the whole book isn't just Carrie's point of view. You get some other characters' points of view, but a lot of these are from the future. So they're talking in the future about something that happened years ago, but the thing that happened takes place like at the end of the book. So you start getting hints about like what's going on, like what's going to happen, but you don't get a lot of information. This was a great way to build tension, because during the whole book you're very slowly like waiting for something to happen, and you know something big is going to happen because people keep talking about it, but you don't know what it is. And what I really liked was that as like the book went on, you get more and more gradual hints, but it never spoiled it. So you start to get a bit of an idea in your head about what happened, giving like drip-fed bits and bits of information. And you like your imagination starts going wild, thinking like, oh, like could this have happened? Could that have happened? And this was such a great way to build tension because it's a very slow build-up to an amazing payoff. So I think that was a brilliant way to like hint that something's gonna happen, but not give you enough information so you actually know what it is. And once you get to the end section, you just can't put it down. Like I got to like the end, I think it was third, and I just had to like go through every single page. I couldn't stop. And I got to the end of it, I was just like, wow, that was such a brilliant ending. Like, the whole book is kind of building up to this big incident, and they keep telling you about this incident that happens, but you don't know what happened in the incident. And I'm so glad the payoff is absolutely worth the build-up. It is absolutely fantastic. I really love how in this, they also talk about the scientific aspect of the telekinesis powers, and like, also like the religious aspect. Because the mum is quite religious, so she thinks all the like telekinesis stuff is like a sign from God, or the devil, and the curse, and that sort of thing. But you also get points of view in the future where they're talking about like the scientific reason why it happened. And actually, it was like such a minor plot point, but I found it so interesting that they're talking about like the telekinesis gene and how it can be passed down from like generations. And even though you don't get like a full complete explanation about what happens, you kind of get a good insight into like what caused it to have telekinesis and how it happened, and like, is it to do with evolution, can other people be telekinetic, and that sort of thing, and I thought that was really interesting. With that said, I absolutely loved Carrie. It was a shame that it was a bit of a slow start, and the side characters weren't that interesting, but everything else was completely gripping, completely hooked. I would give it 4 out of 5 without a doubt. If the start wasn't so slow and the side characters weren't so forgettable, I'd probably give it a 5. But I think, like, the slow start I would have been able to excuse, but I think the side characters just weren't interesting, like, at all. If you think about picking this up, please do. It's absolutely fantastic. You can get it pretty much anywhere. It's Stephen King. It's famous. It's a classic. You can be at your library, Amazon, pretty much any bookstore I imagine will stock it. So with that said, I hope you guys have enjoyed. Next week I'm going to be taking a look at The Umbrella Conspiracy by S.D. Perry, and that's a novelization of the first Resident Evil book. So if you're interested in that, make sure to subscribe and it'll be out next week. So stay tuned, and I'll see you all next week. This is JJ Goodman, over and out.